What is intuition? We know our intuition is real. We always talk about our intuition, but that's usually where the conversation stops, right? We say things like, my spidey senses were tingling, or I just knew, I had this feeling, or my gut was telling me. So we know that intuition is real, but we don't usually go deeper. And if you're anything like me, you are way too curious to leave the conversation there. So welcome to this video. I'm going to break down what our intuition is. I'm going to talk about the roles that it plays, kind of how it works, just a general overview, and where it comes from. So let's dive in. Let's start with what our intuition does. What roles does it play? And as a general kind of blanket overview, your intuition wants you to thrive and have a really good time with your life, whatever that means to you. So one of the things it does is it likes to keep us safe. And I think this is probably one of those things that everybody is probably most familiar with. So it's that moment where you're about to step off a curb, there is a car coming that you don't know about, but your intuition does know. And so as you go to step, you just have this moment of hesitation where you kind of pull back a little bit, the car goes whizzing by, and you're like, whew, that was a close one. And your intuition is like, had your back the whole way, because it wants you to be able to do what it is you want to do. And I'm pretty sure for all of us, getting hit by a car is not part of that, right? We want to thrive, we want to have a good time. And so that's what our intuition does. And I think, we've all had a moment where, you step out of the way right before something heavy falls, or, you take a different way home. And when you get home, you find out that there was an accident on your normal route. And if you had gone that way, you would have been smack in the middle of it, right? Our intuition's always giving us these impulses to go a different way, just hold up for a second, whatever it is to keep us safe, which is really wonderful because we like to feel good. One of the other things that it does is it knows so much about you. It knows your hopes and your dreams, it knows your wants and desires, and it wants to help you achieve that. And your intuition probably isn't going to just say, here's everything you want, but it is going to call you forward step by step by step. So let's say that you are considering a career change. And it doesn't matter if it's a career change or a life partner or better health or more abundance or more security, whatever you dream of, your intuition can lead you there. It acts like a GPS to help you navigate there easily and in a way that usually delights us. So let's say you are manifesting this career and you are like, okay, this is what I want to do. Your intuition's going to say, you know what, go to this event, walk into this bookstore. Like you could be walking through a mall or down a shopping street and you're going to just keep coming back to like looking at this one bookstore maybe, right? And you just kind of keep looking at it and you're like, oh, okay. And then you go to another store and you walk out and this store kind of just lights up in your periphery again. That's your intuition. That's your intuition saying, go in the store. There is a book here for you, or there is somebody in the store for you to meet that is going to help you, that's going to give you more information so that you can be successful, so that you can start stepping towards your dreams right now. And so it's little things like that. And you know by how it feels, right? You'll know that bookstore piques your curiosity, your interest a little bit. Or let's say that there is an event on Saturday night. Your friend calls and says, hey, there's this thing going on. I really, really, really think we should go. And you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. Like you immediately feel excited. You're like, oh my gosh, this has a bunch of, different speakers or bands or whatever is going on, right? It's got stuff that you're interested in. That's your intuition saying, yes, go to this event. However, if your friend calls you and says, hey, there's this event on Saturday and I really think we should go, and you just feel drained, you're like, I really don't want to go. I think I'd rather just stay home. That's also your intuition. Your intuition does the yeses, but it also does the nos. This isn't for you. Spend your time and energy elsewhere. So if you feel drained, if you feel like, I really don't care, I don't really want to, or I'd rather do this instead, do that thing instead. That's still your intuition saying, don't worry, you're not missing anything, you are fine, just put your energy into you. So that's kind of wonderful too. When we listen to the signs, and if you want to know more about this, there is another video coming about different signs, different ways to work with your intuition and how to really truly trust it. But for now, just know it calls us forward. And it includes that whole this isn't for you too. We tend to think of it as all just one big yes, yes, yes. But the no's are just as important, right? Knowing something's not for you helps make decisions easy and clear to know that this isn't for me, but this is, and I'm excited to go this way. All right, the last thing it does is it wants you to have a really good time along the journey. So your intuition knows everything, absolutely everything about you, what you like, what you don't like, where you're headed, what you need to work on. It knows all of this. And so you're gonna feel impulses. And this happened to me the other week. I was at the grocery store. I mean, my intuition knows I like dark chocolate. Pretty much everyone who knows me knows that I like dark chocolate. And I was at the store. They hadn't had my chocolate in for a while that I like. And I just got this impulse, like walk down the chocolate aisle, walk down the candy aisle. And so I turned around and I walked down that aisle, and not only was my favorite chocolate in stock, it was on sale. So way to go. Just listening to that impulse, right? I just felt like I wanted to walk down that aisle. I had no reason to, didn't really need it, but my intuition knows that I love it, and it put a smile on my face. So for you, maybe it's chocolate, but maybe you just, you have a thing for a certain type of bird, right? Let's say it's a cardinal, and you've just been feeling kind of flat lately and not so great, and you just get this impulse to go for a walk. And of course, as soon as you get down the street, that's when a couple of cardinals fly in front of you. Your intuition gave you that impulse to go for a walk because it knew you needed that little pick-me-up. It knew you needed to be there at that moment, and that's why you felt that impulse. So it's got your back, which is really, really, really wonderful. So that's what our intuition does. Now, if you're like me, you're like, okay, that's great. I love what our intuition does, but please, please, please tell me, how do I use it? How do I flex this muscle? And the answer to that is intuition is energy. Energy is something that we feel, that we sense. And so it works primarily through our body, right? We feel this impulse. We feel called towards something, excited for something. It piques our interest. That's all your intuition. Maybe it's not a heck yes, but it's a definite explore this further. It's going to give you your next step. Right? So maybe you get called into the bookstore and there's a book that just kind of catches your attention. And it's not so much the book, but the name of the author, right? The book might be about something else, but that author might have a podcast or something else that you're like, oh, actually, I'm going to check out that podcast. So it's calling you to investigate further. It doesn't have to be an absolute, this is it. We're always looking for that answer. Just please give me the answer. But learning to listen so that we can follow the steps and connect the dots is really how to do that. And like I said, there's another video breaking down how to really fine-tune this for yourself, because everyone works a little bit differently. So it's something that we feel in the emotions. It's also something that we can feel physically, right? So if you notice that bookstore keeps kind of like just being in your awareness, being in your periphery, maybe there's something there, right? Check it out, go and investigate it a little bit further, because there's something there for you. You might just feel kind of like a call, or things might, just really land in your heart. Something that you feel that you're like, yes, this is a yes. That's your intuition. So it's our emotions, it's that excitement, it's just that kind of happy, homey feeling. And it's also those things in our periphery that we're like, oh, this keeps coming up. Repetition is a great feature in your intuition, because if it keeps coming up, there's a reason for it. So start paying attention. And that will definitely help. I will say your thoughts are part of your intuition. It gets a little noisy in the mind because we have our ego, we have wants and needs and so on. But in terms of thoughts, those, when you're out doing something and you're like, oh, I need to set this out when I go home. I need to set something by the door when I go home so I don't forget it tomorrow. Or this has actually happened to me. It's like the day before, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have an appointment tomorrow. That's your intuition. Your intuition knows that appointment is there. It wants you to make that appointment. So it's going to remind you, hey, you've got an appointment tomorrow. Please remember this. So it's all these little things, right? Those thoughts that just kind of drop in very clearly from nowhere, that kind of emotional call forward or excitement or eagerness, something that piques your interest. And it's also kind of that physical sense of like, I keep coming back to this thing. I keep noticing this. I just want to walk into this store. So it's all of that, which sounds a little messy, but when you start to slow it down, and that's probably my first tip, is slow down and start to make sense of it, it gets really, really crystal clear, which is awesome because then we can use it. The one thing I will say about intuition is it really is kind of like working out. So let's say you decide you're going to start doing push-ups and the most you can do is 5. Yeah, you're like, okay, I did 5 and I'm going to celebrate that, but it really wasn't that great. With practice, you start to do 10 and then 20 and then 30 and then 50. And you get stronger and you get more, right? Your intuition works the same. As you start to slow down and you start to fine tune it and you start to feel it out, you start to get more clear and more comes, and you start to be able to use it and apply it a whole lot more effectively. So it's kind of like push-ups, except when you do more push-ups, you just get more and more bored, or at least I do. As you use your intuition, it actually gets more and more exciting because you feel more empowered, it gets easier, things start to flow and fall into place, and it's really, really fun. So not saying don't do the push-ups, but intuition's pretty awesome. All right, the last thing I'm gonna talk about is where does intuition come from? And I've worked with a lot of people and a lot of different intuitions. Everyone has a different style. It works uniquely for them. I have had people tell me that they think their intuition comes from God. And I'm like, awesome, if that's what you think, I want you to roll with that, right? Some people have said spirit or source or the universe or any kind of higher power. And if that works for you, awesome, I want you to use that. I typically intersperse source, spirit, universe, whatever. Honestly, does there need to be a right answer? And I say that because other people have said, you know, I think my intuition is me. It's part of me. And I think, awesome, if that works for you, roll with it. All you're looking for is what resonates with you, okay? So you and your friend might be talking about the same thing in different ways, and that's okay. Just acknowledge when they say spirit, you refer to it as God, or you refer to it as yourself, or whatever. It's all good. I'm just saying use what works for you, because that's going to make it flow further. And when you try and push against and say, no, that's not how it works, you're taking yourself outside of you, and that's not where your intuition works. Your intuition works inside of you. So stay within, step into your power there, and you're going to find so much alignment. It's going to be amazing. If you have questions, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll see you soon.